Liverpool, 2007. Rain hammering down like gods trying to wash something away. Blue lights carving through the dark outside a gym in Speke. And there, on the wet pavement, a body bag being zipped shut. Colin Smith, businessman, father, ghost. He'd spent years outmaneuvering cartels that turned men into warning signs. He'd smiled at police officers who suspected nothing. But when you lie to everyone long enough, someone eventually stops believing. And in this world, they don't ask for receipts. They collect. Who was this man? The neighbor who drove a modest car and picked his kids up from school? And why did it take 6 years after his partner's murder for the bill to come due? Let me tell you about Liverpool in the 1980s, because that's where this starts. Not in boardrooms or mansions, in the ruins. The docks collapsed, 40% unemployment. Families that built ships for generations suddenly had nothing to build at all. And when legitimate work dies, illegitimate work thrives. Heroin flooded in like a plague. They called it Smack City. Some wore that badge with pride. Others just wore it. This wasn't glamorous. This was survival wearing a tracksuit. Then came Curtis Warren, the blueprint, the original ghost. He didn't just sell drugs in Liverpool, he globalized it. Amsterdam connections, Colombian pipelines. Warren showed everyone how small-time dealers could become international operators. He was the first to prove you didn't need to be Italian or Colombian to run a cartel. You just needed to be smarter than everyone hunting you. Until 1996, when they finally caught him, locked him away, left a vacuum the size of the Mersey Tunnel. And Colin Smith? He was watching, quietly. You wouldn't have noticed Colin Smith at a party. Average height, soft-spoken, worked at small car part shops in Huyton, doing bookkeeping. The kind of man who remembers your birthday, but forgets his own. Neighbors loved him. Police never looked twice. That was the point. Because while Curtis Warren built an empire with flash and reputation, Colin understood something deeper. True power doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Mid-1990s, Colin steps into Warren's shadow. No gold chains, no nightclub appearances, no Instagram before Instagram existed. Just efficiency. Numbers that balanced perfectly, shipments that never got caught. A fruit import company that looked so legitimate it was boring. And boring is invisible. He'd receive containers marked tropical produce from South America. Inside, cocaine, hundreds of kilos, hidden in false bottoms beneath actual mangoes and bananas. The invoices were real, the paperwork pristine. Even customs agents would wave it through because who audits fruit that aggressively? Genius, really. In a world where everyone's trying to look like a gangster, Colin looked like he sold groceries. Here's where it gets strange. Colin held family Sundays. Every associate had to bring their wives and kids. Barbecues, football matches, birthday parties for children who had no idea their fathers were moving millions. The police thought it was sweet. Community man, family values. It was theater, criminal meetings disguised as suburban wholesomeness. Because who raids a children's birthday party? While others posed for photos with stacks of cash, Colin built a ghost network. One so clean, investigators thought it was just a logistics firm. They had files on him. Thin ones. Businessman. Import-export. Clean tax records. Nothing stuck because there was nothing visible to grab. But every empire built on silence eventually echoes. And Colin's echo came wearing a suit and an enforcer's smile. His name was Stephen Lawler. Stephen Lawler wasn't invisible. He didn't want to be. Ex-bouncer turned fixer. Ran nightclub security rackets across Liverpool. If you owned a club, you paid Lawler's crew, or you found yourself closing early due to unforeseen incidents. Broken glass, broken bones, the kind of persuasion that doesn't require PowerPoint presentations. But Lawler was more than muscle. He was Colin's bridge. The enforcer in a designer suit. The man who could sit with Colombian intermediaries and make them believe Liverpool was serious, professional, worth the risk.
Police surveillance from 1999 to 2001 tied him to 12 assaults. 12 they could prove. The real number? Let's just say Stephen Lawler was very good at his job. Colin trusted him. Or maybe Colin needed him. In this world, the line between those two things gets blurry fast. Colin had rules, obsessive ones. All deals were handshake only. No written ledgers, no phone records, no paper trails. Paper trails kill, he'd say. And he was right. Paper trails put Curtis Warren away. Colin learned that lesson well. But here's the problem with burning all the receipts. When money goes missing, no one knows who took it. And when no one knows who took it, everyone suspects everyone. Paranoia becomes currency. He thought no record meant no evidence. It also meant no friends when the money went missing. And in 2001, a lot of money went missing. 72 million pounds. Let that number sit. 500 kilograms of pure cocaine, shipped on credit from Colombia through Amsterdam. The kind of deal that makes careers or ends lives. Usually both. Lawler brokered it, used his connections. The Colombians trusted him because Colin stood behind him. The arrangement was simple. Deliver the product, collect the money, everyone profits. Liverpool to Cartagena, handshake across an ocean. Then the shipment vanished. Not seized, not intercepted, vanished. Someone took it. Someone sold it. Someone kept the money. The Colombians wanted answers. Colin wanted answers. Lawler had none to give. Or maybe he had answers he chose not to share. Trust evaporates fast when tens of millions disappear. May 2001. Stephen Lawler walks out of a Liverpool nightclub. Late. Alone. Probably felt safe. He'd walked out of 100 clubs the same way. But this time, a rival security firm led by Peter Clark was waiting. 4 men. One with a shotgun. They didn't ask questions. They didn't negotiate. Stephen Lawler died in the street outside the very kind of club he used to control. One bullet erased Colin's only bridge to the cartel and left a 72 million pound question no one wanted to answer. Here's what the police didn't know yet. What Colin didn't know yet. The FBI and Interpol were already circling. A DEA memo from 2001, since declassified, noted Liverpool cell linked to Cartagena intermediaries under active surveillance by Europol. Colin's ghost network wasn't as invisible as he thought. The feds were watching. Not closely enough to arrest, but closely enough to track. International agencies marking dominoes, waiting to see which falls first. Colin was now exposed on 3 fronts. The cartel wanted their money, the police were one step behind, and Liverpool's underworld smelled blood. His own kind, the ones who used to fear Lawler. They weren't scared anymore. He'd built everything on silence and trust. Now he had neither. Just a target on his back that grew heavier every day. For 6 years, Colin tried to disappear deeper into legitimacy. Took his kids to school, went to the gym, lived the life of a man who never touched cocaine. Maybe he thought time would erase the debt, that the cartel would forget, that Liverpool would move on.
But debt doesn't forget. It compounds. And someone, somewhere, was still keeping score. February 13, 2007. Colin walks out of his gym in Speke. Same routine he'd followed for months. Tracksuit, gym bag, car keys in hand, probably thinking about dinner, maybe thinking about his kids. He never made it to the car. 2 men, motorcycle, probably wearing helmets, probably calm. They fired twice and left him bleeding out next to a row of parked cars. Colin Smith didn't scream, didn't run, didn't fight, just collapsed, like a man who'd been expecting this moment for 6 years. The gym cameras caught nothing useful. The street had no witnesses. Or rather, it had plenty. They just didn't see a thing. That's how it works in Liverpool when the message is meant for everyone. But let's rewind, because the question isn't how he died, it's why he waited 6 years to die. After Lawler's murder in 2001, Colin had a choice. Come clean to the Colombians, explain the shipment was stolen by rivals, take the loss, rebuild trust slowly, like a man who values tomorrow more than today. He chose a different path, the greedy one, the fatal one. Colin retrieved the cocaine himself, 500 kilos, sitting in Amsterdam warehouse under police noses. He moved it quietly, sold it across Europe in smaller chunks, Berlin, Prague, Barcelona, markets where Liverpool connections meant nothing and questions were minimal. He kept every penny. 72 million pounds, gone, into his pockets, into offshore accounts, into the kind of life he thought he'd earned. Here's the thing about stealing from cartels. They don't care about your reasoning, they care about the precedent. Let one man steal and walk away, and suddenly everyone thinks they can. Colin knew this. He did it anyway. Arrogance? Desperation? Maybe he thought distance and silence would save him. They never do. To cover his tracks, Colin paid the mules through offshore transfers, Gibraltar accounts mostly, labeled the payments fruit brokerage fees. Clean paperwork, legitimate-looking transactions, the kind of detail that makes forensic accountants nod approvingly before they realize what they're actually looking at. But the cartels weren't accountants. They were businessmen who understood one currency, trust. And Colin needed to buy time before they started asking harder questions. So he forged a Dutch customs seizure form, sent it to Cartagena with an apologetic note. The authorities grabbed it, nothing we could do, bad luck, let's regroup. Brilliant. Almost. Except the date stamps didn't match. Different fonts, different formats, the kind of mistakes experts spot in seconds. And cartels employ experts. They have to. Their survival depends on knowing who's lying. Stephen French, they called him the Blonde, was one of Colin's inner circle. Manchester boy, sharp dresser, sharper instincts. And in 2002, facing his own legal troubles, French made a calculation. Loyalty to Colin or loyalty to breathing? He flipped, told the cartel everything. The fake seizure, the secret sales, the offshore accounts. Europol intercepted communications confirming the whole sordid betrayal. Colin Smith hadn't lost the shipment, he'd stolen it, sold it, kept the money. The cartel's verdict was immediate. Debt equals death. 1 million pounds authorized for whoever delivered Colin's corpse.
You don't negotiate bounties like that. You don't plead your case. You run or you die. Colin tried running without leaving. Strange strategy, but he couldn't abandon Liverpool entirely. His kids were there, his life, his identity. So he ran in place. New phones every week, burners replaced like cigarettes, drove mirrored routes home, different streets, different times, never predictable. Installed bulletproof doors at his house, not metaphorical ones, actual Kevlar reinforced steel. His wife noticed, asked questions. He smiled and said business was stressful, which wasn't a lie, just an understatement. He wasn't running from police anymore. He was hiding from ghosts with accents he couldn't see coming. Paranoia becomes its own prison. Every car behind you is a threat. Every stranger at the gym might be the one. You stop sleeping properly, stop trusting anyone, stop living, really. You just survive, badly. Colin tried to launder more than money. He tried to launder his conscience, bought Spanish villas, legitimate property, invested in Merseyside car washes, cash businesses that cleaned dirty money while scrubbing vehicles. The irony probably escaped him. Maybe he thought wealth would insulate him, that if he looked successful enough, legitimate enough, the past would stay buried. But the past doesn't negotiate, it waits, and then it collects. For 6 years, Colin lived like a man walking on ice that cracked louder every day. He dropped his son at football practice, attended parent evenings, went to the gym religiously. Routine as camouflage, normalcy as armor. November 13th, 2007. Tuesday. Ordinary. Colin drops his boy off, watches him run onto the field, probably felt something close to peace. A few minutes where he wasn't calculating angles or checking mirrors. Then, his phone buzzed. Text message. Urgent business. Meet outside the gym, 20 minutes. He should have ignored it. Should have known better. But when you've spent years pretending to be legitimate, sometimes you forget you're not. Or maybe he was just tired. Tired of running. Tired of looking over his shoulder. Tired of being the man who stole 72 million and got away with it. Except, he hadn't gotten away with it. He'd just delayed the bill. Colin walked out of that gym in his tracksuit, gym bag over his shoulder, car keys in hand. Thinking about dinner, maybe. Or his son's football match. Or absolutely nothing, because his brain was finally briefly quiet. 2 shotgun blasts shattered that quiet, point-blank range. They hit him in the chest and head. He was dead before the sound finished echoing. The shooters disappeared in 90 seconds. Motorcycle engine. Gone. Like smoke. For 6 years, he lived as if every sound behind him was the one. And when it finally came, he didn't even turn. No one screamed. No one chased them. The gym parking lot emptied like water draining. People who saw everything suddenly remembered they saw nothing. That's the code. That's survival. Police arrived to find Colin Smith bleeding into the rain. Another body, another unsolved murder in a city with too many. They launched Operation Nike. 40 officers, 200 witness statements, months of investigation, years of dead ends. No convictions. Not one. Because everyone who knew anything valued their own life more than justice. And, honestly, who can blame them? Here's a detail that haunts me. Colin had a £5 million life insurance policy, the kind you buy when you're pretending everything's fine. His family filed the claim after his death, needed it desperately. Man of the house gone, no income, kids to raise. The insurance company froze the payout, invoked the criminal conduct clause, said Colin's lifestyle and death were connected to illegal activity. The family fought it in court until 2015, 8 years. Lawyers and stress and debt piling up, while they argued over money Colin had stolen from people who'd already taken everything.
They never got the full amount, settled for scraps. Another debt Colin left unpaid. His kids grew up knowing their father was murdered. They also grew up knowing he wasn't who he said he was. That's a special kind of grief. Mourning someone while learning they were a lie. The underworld's reaction to Colin's death? Silence. Complete, total, calculated silence. No one avenged him. No one spoke his name in anger. No one even pretended to care. That silence was the message, louder than any threat. Cheat the cartels, and this is your legacy. A parking lot, a body bag, a family fighting over frozen insurance claims, and a city that forgets you ever existed. Colin Smith thought he was smarter than everyone. Smarter than Curtis Warren, smarter than the Colombians, smarter than the enforcers and rivals and police. And for a while, he was right. He built an empire on invisibility and died because he believed invisibility was the same as invincibility. It's not. Intelligence without loyalty isn't power, it's just suicide with a longer fuse. Colin proved that. He outsmarted both sides and lost to both. The cartels got their message delivered. The police got another cold case. And Colin, he got exactly what he earned. Not respect, not freedom, just a wet pavement and a zipped body bag. You want to know the status part? He could have walked away. After Warren's arrest, he could have stayed invisible forever, kept his legitimate front, raised his kids quietly, lived small and safe. But greed doesn't whisper, it screams, and once you listen, you can't unhear it. 72 million pounds bought him 6 years of paranoia and a bullet he saw coming for 2,000 days. That's the exchange rate for betrayal. That's the price of playing ghosts. Liverpool moved on. The docks stayed broken. The drugs kept flowing. New names replaced old ones. Curtis Warren eventually got out of prison. The world kept spinning like Colin Smith never existed. Because in the end, he didn't matter. None of them do. They're just names on police files and whispers in pubs and cautionary tales for the next man stupid enough to think he's different. Colin thought he'd beaten death. He didn't. He just scheduled the appointment and showed up 6 years late. The rain still falls in Speke. The gym's still there. The parking space where he died probably holds someone's car right now. Someone who has no idea. Someone who thinks they're safe. Maybe they are. Or maybe they're just waiting for their own text message. Their own 90 seconds. Their own debt to come due. Because in this world, everyone pays eventually. The only question is when.